What's happening, guys? It's Logan from Hero Spear, presented to you by NoleGameDay.com. We are here on Saturday afternoon after Florida State takes down Louisiana and the Raging Cajuns 49-17. Florida State now has its best record since 2016. Now at 8-3 on the season in 2022 for Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles. With me right now is Dustin Lewis, our editor and chief at NoleGaming.com. D-Lou, thoughts and observations after that game? Put it away pretty early after the first quarter, it felt like.
I would can you still hear me?
Now I can.
Now you can? Yeah, I mean, give Louisiana credit. They've had a pretty solid season, but they hadn't played a Power 5 team up until this point of the year in Florida State. I mean, they've simply been wrecking teams as of late, and that's exactly what we saw. We thought maybe Louisiana could keep it close if they were able to force a turnover or make something happen on special teams. But Florida State came out really controlled. Offense scored on 5 of their 6 possessions in the first half and built a 35-3 lead going into the break. And then from there, it was just up to the Seminoles to get some younger guys some reps and ride the rest of this clock out. So, I mean, they handled business today. Guys only had to play, I think they said in the press conference, most guys only played between 20 and 30 snaps as far as starters. And that means you should have a pretty fresh ball club heading into next Friday night against Florida.
Yeah, no, Mike Norvell talked about it after the game, and he said that he did not have to specifically tell the team to not overlook Louisiana. And we saw it during practice. We've seen in the last couple of weeks, this team does dial in on their opponent, and they say that they focus on themselves, but they're not looking ahead at anything. It shows on the field. It displays right in front of us whenever they're focusing in and they're putting games away quickly like they have in the last couple of weeks. They could have easily looked at Florida. The beat today was asking, immediately right after the game about the Gators, but this team really goes week by week, and it's translating out onto the field. But really, really just solid physical performance out of a team that got to see a lot of the youngsters in near the second half. Really, this whole second half there, you had Jordan Travis with his baseball cap on after halftime. Just a solid win, and you've got one more here in Doak next week.
Yeah, and you didn't have to really do much today. Kept it pretty vanilla. Jordan only had to throw, I believe, 13 passes on the day. Florida State, 6 straight games now with 200 yards on the ground. They're able to break the 200-yard mark in that first half. 4 different players with over 35 yards on the ground. Trey Benson leading the way yet again. But we did see Jordan Travis get in the end zone twice today. Treshaun Ward was able to get into the end zone 2 times as well. And Lawrence Toafili made some nice plays. So, we talked about the defense getting Fabian Lovett and some of those guys back and now being healthy. You're seeing the same thing in that running back room, which, we've had so many guys miss time throughout the year, from Ward to CJ Campbell. Now all those guys are back and making an impact on the offense.
Yeah, we got to talk with Robert Scott Jr. after the game. Mike told us, though, in the locker room after the game, that Dylan Gibbons broke the rock there. It was funny. Robert Scott, he's a funny guy to interview, but joked around. He said Dylan Gibbons already looks like a caveman, so breaking the rocks or messing around with the rocks just looks right. But this offensive line is really on an upwards trend of growth, development, and you're seeing it not just in that starting front, but and then the second team too. Guys we see at practice now get to come in and get really good reps in game time situations. It's an O-line group that Coach Atkins continues to develop, and it's really fun to watch. And it's just made Treshaun Ward, Trey Benson, Lawrence Toafili, their lives so much easier when these holes are wide open. If you look back in the earlier part of the season, we would see defenders back in the backfield, and you see Trey Benson having to bounce off of people. It's been a minute since, that's been going on right now, and Florida State's done a really good job at the front line.
Yeah, and just to further that point, at this point, Florida State, 3 straight weeks with an offensive lineman being named ACC Player of the Week, and we'll see how it turns out today. Getting over 200 yards again for the 6th straight week. That might have someone else being named an ACC Player of the Week whenever that comes out on Monday or Tuesday. So I thought it was a pretty dominant effort from the offensive line. A lot of the time we were able to see these guys get up to the second level, get some bodies on the linebackers, just bring a couple big runs for the running backs. And then, like you said, even in the second half, when some of the younger guys get in there, one guy you pointed out immediately, true freshman offensive tackle Jalen Early on a run to the left side, he was able to get up and seal a linebacker. So I think it just shows the continued improvements that these units have made since the beginning of the season. And we heard Robert Scott say, this team watches film together.
We're dealing with some just disgusting weather in here, so this is going to be the fastest instant reaction of the year by far. But I don't know what you were saying there at the latter half, D-Lou. He can't. D-Lou's saying he can't hear me, so we are dealing with some rain. It's crappy weather right now. D-Lou, can you hear me now?
I can't hear you.
Go ahead and finish off what you were saying there. No, we're having bad luck here. So
Going well.
it's going great. Of
That's
course,
why I
when we
said
come
do it
out
at the
here,
house.
they'll be all right. They'll be all right. Well, any thoughts ahead to UF? I mean, this game was over early. You had Jordan Travis get his touchdowns. Done for halftime. You got to see AJ Duffy. You saw Duffy and Marqueston Douglas get their first touchdowns in their careers at Florida State. Still some growth to be done there, but for him to get that amount of time and this game was huge for him.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Waiting on you.
It keeps tripping out. Where are we at?
We can hear you though. We can hear you fully. Everything.
Okay.
Well, we were talking
I would
about
just say
AJ Duffy.
AJ Duffy, yeah, definitely good to see him get some extended action today. That was the first real time that we've seen him get since week 0 against Duquesne. A nice little touchdown pass there to Marqueston Douglas for both of their first scores at the college level. And yeah, I mean, just good to see him get some work. Also, we're able to get Rodemaker and Gino in there. So 4 quarterbacks played today for Florida State. And I just think that adds to the fact that Florida State was able to get a bunch of young guys, not just a quarterback, running back, offensive line, all positions on the field, get some of those reserves and younger guys in there. And this team should be pretty fresh going into next Friday against Florida. And, you keep a real hot streak here with how the offense was able to perform in the first half under Jordan Travis, despite really not doing a lot through the air. So, I think once again, we'll see a pretty focused team throughout the week leading up to the matchup with Florida. And, I think FSU definitely has some revenge on their minds when you think back to last year, Florida winning that game in the regular season finale and preventing Florida State from making it to the postseason. So I think everyone, even if they're not saying it, that's definitely on the back of their minds.
Trayshawn Ward said that there's a different kind of mentality going into this one this year. Definitely, I think revenge is on the top of their minds. But yeah, Florida coming off of a loss today against Vanderbilt on the road. There was a potential to where Florida State and Florida, that was going to be a ranked matchup here in Doak for a primetime game next Friday night. But it doesn't seem it's going to be that way. But
they
still,
blew it.
They blew it for us. I was wanting that. Just make it a little bit better. I'm back feeling like the good old days. But Florida screws that up. Billy Napier screws that up. But still expected to have a pretty wild and crazy atmosphere inside Doak Campbell Stadium next Friday night.
Yeah, it should be a fun one as Florida State looks for its 9th win. And, I think we should reflect real quick. Seminoles earning their 8th win of the season today. That matches the total that Mike Norvell's wins in his first 2 seasons in Tallahassee. So the turnaround at Florida State continues, and with 2 games remaining, regular season finale against Florida and a bowl game, FSU still has a chance to finish with double-digit victories for the first time since 2016. So we're seeing a clear progression from the Seminoles on the field, and with the way they're playing right now, a strong close to the season is definitely in the fold.
Just one thing to know before we wrap up here. Micah Pittman went down early in the game. He went to the locker room. We did not see him on the sideline, Florida State star wide receiver. We'll continue to see if we get any more updates. We talked with Mike Norvell after the game. No update there. We should be able to see something hopefully maybe during practice this week as things will be put ahead just a bit earlier with kickoff already being next Friday. So we'll see there. Micah Pittman, a big-time player for Florida State, and a lot what they like to do on offense, too. But Mike Norvell said a very physical, strong player. So you got to hope that you like to have Pittman back out there against the Gators.
We'll see how it shakes out. He's definitely a piece that Florida State would love to have on offense, and especially on the special teams unit as well. We got to see Jamie Robinson take some reps at punt returner for the first time this season. I believe that's the first time this year that a player other than Pittman has returned a punt for Florida State. So, I mean, he's been crucial in multiple facets for the Seminoles. Will definitely be a big loss if he's unable to suit up next Friday. And then another guy we didn't really see a ton of today, whether that was due to something or just with the way this game was out of reach, wide receiver Johnny Wilson. He did go through pregame warmups, but I'll have to look at the box score. I do not think he recorded a statistic today and didn't play very much. We'll have to see whenever the snap counts come out on PFF later today. And then Trey Benson seemed like he got banged up in the second or third quarter, but then was able to return to the game. So not too worried about it right now. Overall, feels like FSU came out relatively healthy here, and they should be ready to go on Friday night whenever Florida comes to town.
Mike Norvell said after the game, feels like they're playing their best football yet as a program, and he feels like it's the perfect time. He's not going to say the name of the opponent. He doesn't say it. He doesn't say the Gators, but he feels pretty good about going into next week. And with Florida State, with the trend upwards of staying healthy like this, going into this last game, your last rivalry game, your biggest one of the season, and then going into the postseason with Florida State playing in a bowl game, you like your chances with the healthy Florida State team right now.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't like your chances. I mean, we've seen it ever since the bye week when this team was able to get some time off following 3 physical games against Wake Forest, North Carolina State, and Clemson. I mean, the level of play. Now, I know they haven't played a top 25 team in that period, but just the level of play and the level of domination that Florida State has been able to put on display recently is very impressive. I mean, they've dispatched now 4 straight opponents within the first half, and they're able to get quality reps for reserves and backups and some of the true freshmen who may end up redshirting this year. The last couple of weeks have gone in Florida State's favor heavily. I think we're going to have a little bit more of a battle on Friday night whenever the Gators come to town. So FSU is definitely going to need to have a strong week of practice and be ready for this one. But they're not going to overlook it.
Nope. This team has stayed dialed week by week on their opponents. So it should be a fun one here next Friday night to end off the regular season for Florida State. And Mike Norvell now 8-3 on the season. 8-3. Let that sink in.
500. He's back to 500.
Yep. So the climb is definitely continuing. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us this evening. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. If you're on YouTube right now, hit the like button, share with your friends. Appreciate all of y'all all throughout the season listening. We'll be live on Wednesday, giving a game preview, and we will have a guest on to give you the inside scoop on the Florida Gators as Billy Napier will come into town for the first time in a rowdy Doak Campbell Stadium on a Friday night. Should be fun. So appreciate everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys on Wednesday night. Peace.